Salwete, we are continuing with line 561 here. Dido is now going to respond to Ilioneus's speech. Tum breviter Dido, vultum, in your edition it probably says you, or it should say you, vultum. This vultum is an alternative. Vultum, let me start again. Tum breviter Dido, vultum de missa profatur, sol vitae corde metum tucri secludite curas. Dido then briefly, and this is with her having cast down her face, spoke. So let's, Dido, subject, briefly is an adverb, spoke, profatur. Remember some of these words like fandus, having to do with speaking. These come from the verb for. If you looked up in the dictionary, it's for, fari. Even the word fatum, the fates, or fata, comes from this, because they speak. Their speech has major implications. The fates. So again, then Dido speaks, this is a present tense actually, speaks briefly, means not waiting a long time, I guess, or she actually speaks for a brief time. Then briefly, I think she doesn't wait a long time after Ilioneus speaks. Then Dido briefly speaks. Demissa is an adjective that modifies Dido. Having cast down, vultum, her face. I am aware that I'm translating this demissa actively, even though it is a passive participle. It's a perfect passive participle. Farr says that we're using what's called the middle voice, something we don't see in Latin as much. It's more common in Greek. But Dido having cast down her face. This is what we're going to translate this as. And vultum is the accusative of what she's casting down, the object. This is showing modesty on Dido's side, and the Romans would be excited about this, I think. Solvite corde metum, tucri secludite curas. We have some commands from Dido here. Loosen, fear, corde, from your heart. So this is the imperative mood, fear, the accusative. And then from your heart, or in your heart, can be an ablative, corde. Tucrians, that's vocative. I think I've been using green for vocative sometimes. Tucrians. Secludite tu curas. And this is another imperative. Shut out, curas, your fears, or exclude your fears. Loosen fear from your heart, tucrians. And you need an and in here. This is a syndeton, leaving out and shut out your cares. Res dura et regni novitias metalia cogun molire late fines custode tueri. Res dura, a hard thing. Farr translates this as harsh necessity, in idiomatically. Remember that res can be translated as lots of things. Its basic level means a thing, but harsh necessity, I don't have any choice but to treat outsiders the way that you were treated, is what Dido's saying here. Harsh necessity, or it is a difficult thing. And regni novitias, or novitas, and the newness, regni, genitive, of my kingdom. Because remember, Dido just settled this place, and they're getting established. They're not well established with allies and city and fortifications and things like that, army. They're just getting started up, so they got to be very on their guard. So here we go. Harsh necessity and the newness of my kingdom, kogunt, force me. This is a compound from ago, and ago can mean drive me, or drive, or do, and kogunt, force me. There's the accusative, me. Moliri, this is a complementary infinitive with kogunt. To do means fakere, but it's even stronger than fakere. And the word molus means a burden. So to really take the extreme measures, maybe you could say. Harsh necessity and the newness of my kingdom force me to take extreme measures, to do talia, such things. This is the accusative of what that goes with moliri, such things. And what kind of things are we talking about? Well, the things like the Trojans not being welcomed by the Teucrians, or not giving the, as they called it, the hospitality of the sand, and the potential of their ships being burned. These are the kind of things that Dido says she's forced to do because of the newness of her kingdom and harsh necessity. Et late fines custode tueri. And these things right here force me to another infinitive, tueri. This is a deponent. Oh, both of these are deponent infinitives, actually. Deponent verbs, molior, tueor. Force me to guard or watch over, protect, tueri. My fines, my borders, custode, with a guard, custode, ablative. Custos is a guard, and custode is the ablative form. And to do this far and wide, late is an adverb also. Well, it's an adverb, and then this is an ablative, making a noun, custos, into essentially an adverb. That's what the ablative does. It tells us how something is done. And this also is telling us how it's done. But this is an adverb, late, and custode is the ablative case of custos. So one more time. Restura, harsh necessity and the newness of my kingdom force me to to take the extreme measures, to do such things. And they force me to protect my borders far and wide with a guard, with guardedness maybe. Continuing with the rest of this, quis genus Aeneadam, quis Troiae nesciat urbem, virtutesque virosquaut tant incendia belli. Now she changes her speech a little bit, so she excuses some of the actions that she did and tells them why. She explains them. And she says, quis, who, nesciat. This is a present subjunctive. Who would not know? That's the subject. And then quis is also repeated here. This is anaphora for effect. Who would not know the Aenean race, the Trojan race? Okay, those are accusatives. And genus is neuter. And then who would not know the urbem, Troiae, of Troy, genitive, the city of Troy. Say, we know this stuff. We've heard about you guys. Who would not know the Aenean race? Who would not know the city of Troy? Virtutesque viros quaut tanti incendia belli. Here's some other accusatives of what they would not know. They do know of them. Virtus, viros, et incendia. So let's do that again. Who would not know the Aenean race and the city of Troy? Both the virtues, or you could say and the virtues, meaning manliness, and the men. This is a nice alliteration here. Virtutesque viros quautantia incendia, the V's. Or the incendia, the fires. Tanti belli, of such a war, meaning the Trojan War. The fires of such a war. And really, all the things in this line here, the virtutes, the viros, and the incendia, all are going along with this war, because this war went on for 10 years, and the Trojan bravery and the men and the fires of the war, all these things the Carthaginians know about. Quis nesciat? Who would not know? Last part. Non obtusa Deo gestamus pectora poeni, nec ta versus equos turia sol jungit ab urbe. The subject is we, poeni, nos poeni. So you got to put in nos. Nos. That's supposed to be nos, not hos. Nos poeni. And poeni means Phoenicians, because remember that's where they come from. Do not, here's your known at the front, right? Do not gestamus, do not gestamus, carry on, or bear. Obtusa pectora, and it goes with adeo. Adeo means so, or such. We Phoenicians do not bear such dull hearts, meaning we're not ignorant. Remember here she said, who would not know? So we are not so dull, is the idea. Farr says that as an idiomatic translation. We do not carry on such dull hearts. So subject, verb, these are the objects, and this is a adverb. In the sentence down here, we have a new subject, the sol, the sun, and you have and not, nec, and the sun is not. The sun, and then this is describing the sun, adversus, turned away. The sun, so turned away, is not so turned away. The sun that the sun joins its horses. Think of the sun as being in the chariot, Apollo driving it in the chariot, and so it has horses. Ab urbe Turia, from the Tyrian city. Those are ablatives going with ab. We have a nice chiasmus going on here, right? Aversus sol, Turia urbe. So maybe translate this, and the sun. So, nor is the sun so turned away that it joins its horses away from the Tyrian city. The idea being the sun makes a course through the sky, and its course shines on the civilized world. And so we are not so far away, and the sun's not so turned away from us that we're out of this path of the sun. So we're like all civilized peoples of the Mediterranean, and the sun is passing over us too. So nor, I'm putting an is here because it makes it sound better, and then I'm saying that before here, but if you want to be really literal, nor the sun, nor does the sun join its horses away from the Tyrian city, so turned away. This is describing the sun, and this is the verb. So you make sure you got both those parts. So one last time on these last two lines. We, Phoenicians, are not so, do not carry on such dull hearts. Should not have such dull hearts. Nor does the sun, so turned away, join its horses away from the Tyrian city. So that does it for these lines, but there is one little correction I want to make that I noticed when I looked back at Farr. who would not know of the race? And then this einidarum, it's not accusative. I made a mistake. It is really a genitive. And I don't think I can erase it without erasing a lot of other stuff, so I'm just going to put the genitive over here. It's einidarum, really. Okay, so that's genitive. It really has an arum in there for einidarum. So it would read, who would not know of the race of the Aenean ones? Who would not know of the city of Troy? Okay, so genitive plural, but the AR is taken out, syncopated. All right, that does it for these lines. Wale.